The idea of extending rights to animals has long been controversial, but a deeper look into the thinking behind the ideology reveals ideas that aren't all that novel. Animal rights campaigners strive to distinguish animals from inanimate objects as they are so often considered by exploitative industries and the government. The animal rights movement strives to make the public aware of the fact that animals are sensitive, emotional, and intelligent beings who deserve dignity and respect. But first, it is important to understand what the term animal rights really means. So, what are animal rights? Animal rights principles grounded in the belief that non human animals deserve the ability to live as they wish without being subjected to the desires of human beings. Autonomy, which is another word for choice, is at the heart of animal rights. Human rights are protected in many nations to uphold certain liberties like freedom of expression, the prohibition against torture, and the access to democracy. Of course, these choices are constrained depending on the social locations like race, class, and gender. But generally speaking, human rights safeguard the basic tenets of what makes human lives worth living. Animal rights try to do something similar, only for non human animals.
The first most well known main argument for these ethical decisions about animal rights is deontology. It is an ethical theory that says that actions are good or bad with accordance to a set of rules.
Utilitarianism concerns the nature of how humans should treat animals and what should be the moral status of animals.
So, deontologists believe that humans have the duty to help others while considering their rights and stand firm that this duty must be sustained even if they will suffer. The moral norms that justify both human and animal rights are based on deontology. Now, Tom Rican, the father of animal rights and a renowned philosopher, applied this philosophical perspective. He believed that all animals have rights and they should never be murdered, regardless of whether doing so benefit humans. The principle of respect in deontology implies that one should not consume animal products, do biological research, and use animals for entertainment purposes and other purposes such as using them for clothes and biotechnology. Now, Reagan starts by endorsing the statement that all individuals have inherent value. He poses the question: what is it about human beings that entitles each one to be treated as if they have inherent worth? Since not all people are rational human beings, he argues that we treat all human beings as if they have inherent worth because they are a subject of a life. He then argues that all topics of a life must therefore have inherent worth. Hence, non human animals must have inherent worth because some of them are a subject of life. And he framed his theory of animal rights as a extension of human rights ethics. And he concludes the idea that all humans are equipped with rights, while acknowledging that if this is the case, then non human creatures are a subject of a life, must likewise be equipped with such rights.
Utilitarianism is actually animal friendly. Peter Singer believes that the interests of animals are the same weight as the interests of humans, which would, for example, prevent the use of animals in experiments or any animal suffering. John Stuart Mill's philosophy of utilitarianism believed that in any given situation, the right action would be the action that tended to minimize the suffering and pain and maximize the pleasure and happiness of all interested parties. In animal rights, we must stop speciesism.
So, to sum up the entirety of these perspectives on animal rights, we see these two viewpoints agreeing with the notion of providing a basic level of rights for non-humans, simply because these are creatures that possess life just as humans do. Now, this was further motivated by concerns of exploitation and malpractices, which formed the basis of the legislation regarding animal rights. The general consensus and the general population seems to also agree with this resolution, with some enacting non-profit organizations or animal welfare institutions, which are a reflection of human versions to try and protect the welfare and well-being of animals. Now, these notions were, well, rather, the topic of animal rights, as we see, is coincides with the notion of the sanctity of life. The question is, are all things that possess the breath of creation equal? So, to deontologists, this is a resounding yes, as we see in the explanation within the paper and within the presentation. To utilitarians, there is a sense of compromise. It is always a compromise for utilitarians, as there are two parties that have conflicting necessities. One party is between humans and one being the animals. So, how does one solve such a problem? Is to form a midpoint, a compromise within the two. So, regardless of how this issue may seem contentious to some, the team does think that there should be a place for animal rights within the human laws. Reason being because there are cases in which animal exploitation and malpractices are all too common, especially in poorer places and rural areas. And as such, some legislation regarding animal rights and how to handle these types of creatures should be enacted.